Septimus, what is carnal embrace?
Carnal embrace is the practice of throwing one's arms around a side of beef.
Is that all?
No. A shoulder of mutton, a haunch of venison, well hugged, an embrace of grouse, caro, carnis, feminine flesh.
Is it a sin?
Not necessarily, my lady, but when carnal embrace is sinful, it is a sin of the flesh. QED. We had caro in our Gaelic wars. The Britons live on milk and meat, lacte et carne vivon. I am sorry that the seed fell on stony ground.
That was the sin of Onan, wasn't it, Septimus?
Yes. He was giving his brother's wife a Latin lesson, and she was hardly the wiser after it than before. I thought you were finding a proof of Fermat's last theorem.
It is very difficult, Septimus. You will have to show me how.
If I knew how, there would be no need to ask you. Fermat's last theorem has kept people busy for 150 years, and I hoped it would keep you busy long enough for me to read Mr. Chater's poem in praise of love with only the distraction of its own absurdities.
Our Mr. Chater has written a poem.
He believes he has written a poem, yes. I can see that there might be more carnality in your algebra than in Mr. Chater's couch of arrows.
Oh, it was not my algebra. I heard Jellaby telling Cook that Mrs. Chater was discovered in carnal embrace in the gazebo.
Really? With whom did Jellaby happen to say?
What do you mean, with whom?
With what? Exactly so. The idea is absurd. Where did this story come from?
Mr. Noakes.
Mr. Noakes?
Papa's landscape gardener. He was taking bearings in the garden when he saw, through his spyglass, Mrs. Chater in the gazebo in carnal embrace.
And do you mean to tell me that Mr. Noakes told the butler?
No. Mr. Noakes told Mr. Chater. Jellaby was told by the groom, who overheard Mr. Noakes telling Mr. Chater in the stable yard.
Mr. Chater being engaged in closing the stable door.
What do you mean, Septimus?
So thus far, the only people who know about this are Mr. Noakes, the landscape architect, the groom, the butler, the cook, and of course, Mrs. Chater's husband, the poet.
And Arthur, who was cleaning the silver, and the boot boy, and now you.
Of course. What else did he say?
Mr. Noakes?
No, not Mr. Noakes. Jellaby. You heard Jellaby telling the cook.
Cook hushed him almost as soon as he started. Jellaby did not see that I was being allowed to finish yesterday's upstairs rabbit pie before I came to my lesson. I think you have not been candid with me, Septimus. A gazebo is not, after all, a meat larder.
I never said my definition was complete.
Is carnal embrace kissing?
Yes.
And throwing one's arms around Mrs. Chater?
Yes. Now, Fermat's last theorem.
I thought as much. I hope you are ashamed.
Aye, my lady.
If you do not teach me the true meaning of things, who will?
Ah. Yes, I am ashamed. Carnal embrace is sexual congress, which is the insertion of the male genital organ into the female genital organ for purposes of procreation and pleasure. Fermat's last theorem, by contrast, asserts that when x, y, and z are whole numbers, each raised to the power of n, the sum of the first two can never equate the third when n is greater than 2.
Ugh!
Nevertheless, that is the theorem.
It is disgusting and incomprehensible. Now when I am grown to practice it myself, I shall never do so without thinking of you.
Well, thank you very much, my lady. Was Mrs. Chater down this morning?
No. Tell me more about sexual congress.
There's nothing more to be said about sexual congress.
Is it the same as love?
No, it's much nicer than that. I am teaching, Jellaby.
Beg your pardon, Mr. Hodge. Mr. Chater said it was urgent you receive this letter.
Oh, very well. Thank you.
Mr. Chater asked me to bring him your answer.
My answer. Well, my answer is that, as is my custom and my duty to his lordship, I am engaged until 11:45 in the education of his daughter. When I am done, and if Mr. Chater is still there, I will be happy to wait upon him in the gun room.
I will tell him so. Thank you, sir.
What is for dinner, Jellaby?
Oh, boiled ham and cabbages, my lady, and a rice pudding.
Oh, goody.
Well, so much for Mr. Noakes. He put himself forward as a gentleman, a philosopher of the picturesque, a visionary who can move mountains and cause lakes, but in the scheme of the garden, he is as the serpent.
When you stir your rice pudding, Septimus, the spoonful of jam spreads itself round, making red trails like the picture of a meteor in my astronomical atlas. But if you stir backward, the jam will not come together again. Indeed, the pudding does not notice and continues to turn pink just as before. Do you think this is odd?
No.
Well, I do. You cannot stir things apart.
No more you can. Time must needs run backward, and since it will not, we must stir our way onward, mixing as we go, disorder out of disorder into disorder, until pink is complete, unchanging and unchangeable, and we are done with it forever. This is known as free will or self-determination. Sit.
Septimus, do you think God is a Newtonian?
An Etonian? Almost certainly, I'm afraid. We must ask your brother to make it his first inquiry.
No, Septimus, a Newtonian. Septimus, am I the first person to have thought of this?
No.
I have not said it yet.
If everything from the furthest planet to the smallest atom of our brain acts according to Newton's law of motion, what becomes of free will?
No.
God's will.
No.
Sin.
No.
Very well.
If you could stop every atom in its position and direction, and if your mind could comprehend all the actions thus suspended, then if you were really, really good at algebra, you could write the formula for all the future. And although nobody can be so clever as to do it, the formula must exist just as if one could.
Yes. Yes, as far as I know, you are the first person to have thought of this. In the margin of his copy of Arithmetica, Fermat wrote that he had discovered a wonderful proof of his theorem, but the margin being too narrow for his purpose, did not have room to write it down. The note was found after his death, and from that day to this...
Oh, I see it now. The answer is perfectly obvious.
This time you must have overreached yourself. Mr. Chatter, perhaps my message miscarried. I will be at liberty at 11:45 if this is convenient for you.
It is not convenient, sir. My business will not wait.
Then I suppose you have Lord Croom's opinion that your business is more important than his daughter's lesson?
I do not, but if you like, I will ask his lordship to settle the point.
My lady, take Vermont into the next music room. There will be an extra spoonful of jam if you find its proof.
There is no proof, Septimus. The thing that is perfectly obvious is that the note in the margin was a joke to make you all mad.
Now, sir, what is your business that cannot wait?
I think you know it, sir. You have insulted my wife.
Insulted her. That would deny my nature, my conduct, the admiration which I hold, Mrs. Charter.
I have heard of your admiration, sir. You insulted my wife in the gazebo yesterday evening.
You're mistaken. I made love to your wife in the gazebo. She asked me to meet her there. I have her note somewhere. I dare say I could find it for you, and if someone is putting it about that I did not turn up, by God, sir, it is a slander.
You damned lecher! You would drag down a lady's reputation to make a refuge for your cowardice. It will not do. I am calling you out.
My dear friend,
You dare to call me that? I demand satisfaction.
She demanded satisfaction. And now are you demanding satisfaction? I cannot spend my time day and night satisfying the demands of the Chatter family. And for your wife's reputation, it stands where it ever stood.
You blackguard.
I assure you, Mrs. Chatter is charming and spirited, with a pleasing voice and a dainty step. She is the epitome of all the qualities society applauds in her sex. And yet her chief renown is for a readiness that keeps her in a state of tropical humidity, as would grow orchards in her drawers in January.
Damn you, Hodge! I will not listen to this. Will you fight or not?
Not. There are no more than 2 or 3 poets of the first rank now living, and I will not shoot one of them dead over a perpendicular poke in a gazebo with a woman whose reputation cannot be adequately defended with a platoon of musketry deployed by Rota.
You say so? Who are the others, in your opinion? No. This goes very ill, Hodge. I will not be flattered out of my course. You say so, do you?
I do. And I would say the same to Milton, were he not already dead. Not the part about his wife, of course.
But among the living, Mr. Southey?
Southey I would have shot on sight.
Yes, he has fallen off. I admired Thalaba quite, but Madoc? Oh, dear me. Well, but we are straying from the business here. You took advantage of Mrs. Chater, and if that were not bad enough, it appears every stable boy and scullery maid on the strength.
Oh, damn me. Have you not listened to a word I said?
I have heard you, sir, and I will not deny I welcome your regard. God knows one is little appreciated if one strands outside the coterie of hacks and placemen who surround Geoffrey and Edinburgh.
My dear Chater, they judge a poet by the seating plan of Lord Holland's table.
By heaven, you are right. And I would very much like to know the name of the scoundrel who slandered my verse drama, The Maid of Turkey, in the Piccadilly Recreation, too.
The Maid of Turkey? Well, I have it by my bedside. When I cannot sleep, I take up The Maid of Turkey like an old friend.
There you are. Huh. And this scoundrel wrote he would not give it to his dog for dinner, were it covered in bread sauce and stuffed with chestnuts. When Mrs. Chater read that, she wept, sir, and would not give herself to me for a fortnight. Which recalls me to my purpose.
The new poem, however, will make your name perpetual.
Whether it do or do not.
It is not a question, sir. No coterie can oppose the acclamation of the reading public. The Couch of Arrows will take the town.
Is that your estimation?
It is my intent.
Is it? Is it? Well. I do not understand you.
You see, I have an early copy sent to me for review. I say review, but I speak of an extensive appreciation of your gifts and your rightful place in English literature.
Well, I must say, that is certainly, you have written it?
Not yet.
Ah. And how long does...
Well, to be done right, first requires a careful rereading of your book, of both your books. Several readings, together with outline work for an exhibition or defense or disdain, as the case merits. I make notes, of course. I order my thoughts, and finally, when all is ready, I am calm in my mind.
Did Mrs. Chater know of this before you,
I think she very likely did.
There is nothing that woman would not do for me. Now you have an insight to her character. Yes, by God, she is a wife to me, sir.
For that alone, I would not make her a widow.
Captain Bryce once made the same observation.
Captain Bryce did.
Mr. Hodge, allow me to inscribe your copy in happy anticipation. Lady Thomasina's pen will serve us.
Your connection with Lord and Lady Croom you owe to your fighting her ladyship's brother?
No, it was all nonsense, sir, a canard. But a fortunate mistake, sir. It brought me to the patronage of a captain of His Majesty's Navy, and the brother of a countess. I do not think Mr. Walter Scott can say as much, and here I am, a respected guest at Sidley Park.
Well, sir, you can say you have received satisfaction. Mr. Noakes, my muddy-meddled rascal, where's your spyglass?
I beg your leave. I thought your ladyship, excuse me.
To my friend Septimus, who stood up and gave his best on behalf of the author, Ezra Chater, at Sidley Park, Derbyshire, April 10th, 1809. There, sir. Something to show your grandchildren.
Oh, this is more than I deserve. This is handsome. What do you say, Noakes?
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, not the gazebo. Mr. Noakes, what is this I hear?
Not the gazebo, but the boathouse, the Chinese bridge, the shrubbery.
My God, sir, not possible.
Mr. Noakes will have it so.
Mr. Noakes, this is monstrous.
I am glad to hear it from you, Mr. Hodge.
May I return now?
No, not just yet.
Yes, let her stay. A lesson in folly is worth two in wisdom.
Is Sidley Park to be an Englishman's garden or the haunt of Corsican brigands?
Let us not hyperbolize, sir.
It is rape, sir.
It is the modern style.
Well, regrettable, of course, but so it is.
Mr. Chater, you showed too much submission. Mr. Hodge, I appeal to you.
Madam, I regret the gazebo. I sincerely regret the gazebo. And the boathouse, up to a point. But the Chinese bridge, fantasy. And the shrubbery, I reject with contempt. Mr. Chater, would you take the word of a jumped-up, jobing gardener who sees carnal embrace in every nook and cranny of the landscape?
Miss Fair, speaking of carnal embrace, are you, Mamma?
Certainly not. What do you know of cardinal embrace?
Everything, thanks to Septimus. In my opinion, Mr. Noakes' scheme for the garden is perfect. It is a Salvator.
What does she mean?
Salvatore Rosa, your ladyship, the painter. He is indeed the very exemplar of the picturesque style.
Hodge, what is this?
She speaks from innocence, not experience.
You call it innocence? Has he ruined you, child?
Answer your uncle.
How is a ruined child different from a ruined castle?
On such questions, I defer to Mr. Noakes.
A ruined castle is picturesque, certainly.
That is the main difference. I teach the classical authors. If I do not elucidate their meaning, who will?
But as her tutor, you have a duty to keep her in ignorance.
Do not dabble in paradox, Edward. It puts you in danger of fortuitous wit. Thomasina, wait in your bedroom.
Yes, Mamma. I did not intend to get you in trouble, Septimus. I'm very sorry for it. It is plain that there are some things a girl is allowed to understand, and these include a whole lot of algebra. But there are others, such as embracing a side of beef, that must be kept from her until she is old enough to have a carcass of her own.
One moment.
What is she talking about?
Meat.
Meat.
Thomasina, you had better remain. Your knowledge of the picturesque obviously exceeds anything the rest of us can offer. Mr. Hodge, ignorance should be like an empty vessel waiting to be filled at the well of truth, not a cabinet of vulgar curios. Mr. Noakes, now at last it is your turn.
Thank you, your ladyship.
Your drawing is...
Yes?
Your drawing is a very wonderful transformation. I would not have recognized my own garden but for your ingenious book. Is it not? Look! Here is the park as it appears to us now, and here as it might be when Mr. Noakes has done with it. Where there is the familiar pastoral refinement of an Englishman's garden, here is an eruption of gloomy forest and towering crag, of ruins where there never was a house, of water dashing against the rocks where there was neither spring nor a stone I could not throw the length of a crick pitch. My hyacinth dell is become a haunt for hobgoblins. My Chinese bridge, which I am assured is superior to the one at Kew, and for all I know, Peking, is usurped by a fallen obelisk overgrown with briars.
Lord Little has one very similar.
I cannot relieve Lord Little's misfortunes by adding to my own. Pray, what is this rustic hovel that presumes to superimpose itself on my gazebo?
That is the Hermitage, madam.
I am bewildered.
It is all irregular, Mr. Noakes.
It is, sir. Irregularity is one of the chiefest principles of the picturesque style.
But Sidley Park is already a picture, and a most amiable picture too. The slopes are green and gentle, the trees are companionably grouped at intervals that show them to the advantage. The rill is a serpentine ribbon unwound from the lake, peaceably contained by meadows on which the right amount of sheep are tastefully arranged. In short, it is nature as God intended, and I can say with the painter, et in Arcadia ego. Here I am in Arcadia.
Yes, Mamma, if you would have it so.
Is she correcting my taste or my translation?
Neither are beyond correction, Mamma, but it was your geography caused the doubt.
Something has occurred with the girl since I saw her last, and surely that was yesterday. How old are you this morning?
13 years and 10 months, Mamma.
13 years and 10 months. She is not due to be pert for 6 months at the earliest, or to have notions of taste for much longer. Mr. Hodge, I hold you accountable. Mr. Noakes, back to you.
Thank you.
You have been reading too many novels by Mrs. Radcliffe. That is my opinion. This is a garden for the Castle of Otranto, or the Mysteries of Udolpho.
The Castle of Otranto, my lady, is by Horace Walpole.
Mr. Walpole, the gardener.
Mr. Chater, you are a welcome guest at Sidley Park, but while you are one, the Castle of Otranto was written by whomsoever I say it was. Otherwise, what is the point of being a guest or having one? Oh, well, the guns have reached the brow. I will speak to his lordship on the subject, and we will see by and by. Oh, your friend has got down a pigeon, Mr. Hodge. Bravo, sir!
Pigeon, I'm sure, fell to your husband or to your son, your ladyship. My school friend was never a sportsman.
Yes, to Augustus, bravo, lad, bravo.
Well, come along. Where are my troops?
My dear Mr. Hodge.
Pop, pop, pop. I have grown up in the sound of guns like a child of the siege. Pigeons and rooks in the close season, grouse on the heights from August, and the pheasants to follow. Partridge, snipe, woodcock, and teal, pop, 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 in the culling of the herd. Papa has no need of the recording angel. His life is written in the game book.
The calendar of slaughter. Even in Arcadia, there I am.
Oh, phooey to death. I will put in a hermit, for what is a hermitage without a hermit? Are you in love with my mother, Septimus?
You must not be cleverer than your elders. It is not polite.
Am I cleverer?
Yes. Much.
Well, I am sorry, Septimus. Mrs. Chater came to the music room with a note for you. She said it was of scant importance, and that therefore I should carry it to you with the utmost safety, urgency, and discretion. Does carnal embrace addle the brain?
Invariably so. Thank you. That is enough education for today.
There. I have made him like the Baptist in wilderness.
How picturesque.
Well, she was here.
Ah, the French window.
Yes. Hang on.
Sod.
The best thing is, you wait here. Save you tramping around. She spends a good deal of time in the garden, you might imagine.
Yes. Why?
Well, she's writing a history of the garden. Didn't you know?
No, I knew she was working on the Croom papers, but...
Well, it's not exactly a history of the garden either. I'll let Hannah explain it. The trench you nearly drove into is all about to do with it. I was going to say, make yourself comfortable, but that's hardly possible. Everything's been cleared out. It's en route to the nearest lavatory.
Everything is?
No, this room. They draw the line at chemical, ladies.
Yes. Okay, I see. Did you say Hannah?
Hannah. Yes. Will you be all right? I won't be. Mr. Nightingale.
Yes. Thank you. Miss Jarvis, is Hannah Jarvis the author?
Yes. Have you read her book?
Oh, yes.
I bet she's in the Hermitage. Can't see from here with the marquee.
Are you having a garden party?
A dance for the district. Our annual dressing up and general drunkenness. The Wrinkleys won't have it in the house. There was a teapot we once had to bag back from Christie's in a nick of time. So anything that can be destroyed, stolen, vomited on, has been tactfully removed. Tactlessly, I should say.
Look, would you tell her, would you mind not mentioning my name yet?
Oh. All right.
I mean, it's more fun to surprise her. Would you mind?
No, but she's bound to ask. Should I give you another name, just for the moment?
Yes. Well, why not?
Perhaps another bird. Really a nightingale.
Hello?
Sod, 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 sod.
She's in the garden looking for Miss Jarvis.
Where is everything?
It's been removed for the
The dance is in the tent, isn't it?
Yes, but this is the way to the nearest toilet?
I need the commode.
Oh. Can't you use the toilet?
Is anyone looking after you?
Yes, thank you. I'm Bernard. I've come to see Miss Jarvis. I wrote to Lord Croom, but unfortunately I never received a reply.
Did you type it?
Type it?
Was your letter typewritten?
Yes.
My father never replies to typewritten letters. Oh! Where have you been hiding, Lightning?
So I telephoned yesterday, and I think I spoke to you.
To me? Yes? Ah! Sorry. You're doing a talk about someone. And wanted to ask Hannah something.
Yes. As it turns out, I'm hoping Miss Jarvis will look kindly upon me.
I doubt it.
Ah, you know about the research?
I know about Hannah.
Has she been here long?
Well in possession, I'm afraid. My mother had read her book, you see. Have you?
No, yes. Her book, indeed.
She's terrifically pleased with herself.
Well, I dare say if I wrote a bestseller.
No, for reading it. My mother basically reads gardening books.
She must be delighted to have Hannah Jarvis writing a book about her garden.
Actually, it's about hermits. It's all right, Gus. What do you want? Well, I'll take Lightning for his run.
Actually, we've met before at Sussex a couple years ago. A seminar.
Oh, was I there?
Yes, one of my colleagues believed he had found an unattributed short story by D.H. Lawrence, and he analyzed it on his home computer. Most interesting. Perhaps you remember the paper?
Not really, but I often sit with my eyes closed out of boredom, and it doesn't necessarily mean I'm awake.
Well, by comparing sentence structures and so forth, this chap showed that there was a 90% chance that the story had been written by the same person as Woman in Love. To my inexpressible joy, one of your maths mob was able to show that on the same statistical basis, there was a 90% chance that Lawrence also wrote the Just William books and much of the previous days, Brigham and Hove Argus.
Oh, Brighton. Yes, I was there. Oh, here she comes. I'd leave you to talk. By the way, is yours the red Mazda?
Yes.
If you want a tip, I put it out of sight through the stable arch before my father comes in. He won't have anyone here in a Japanese car. Are you queer?
No, actually.
Well, even so.
Mr. Peacock?
Oh, hello. Hello. Miss Jarvis, of course. Such a pleasure. I was thrown for a moment. The photograph doesn't do justice.
Photograph?
On the book. I'm sorry to have brought you indoors, but Lady Chloe kindly insisted she...
No matter. You would have muddied your shoes.
How thoughtful. And how kind of you to spare me a little of your time.
Are you a journalist?
No.
I've been in the ha-ha, very squelchy.
Ha-ha.
What?
A theory of mine. Ha-ha, not ha-ha. If you were strolling down the garden and all of a sudden the ground gave way beneath your feet, you're not going to go ha-ha. You're going to jump back, go ha-ha. Or more probably, bloody hell. Though personally, I think old Murray was up to the pole on that one. In France, you know. Haha is used to denote a strikingly ugly woman, and much more likely bet that's something that she keeps the cows off the lawn.
Mr. Peacock, what can I do for you?
Well, to begin, you can call me Bernard, which is my name.
Thank you.
The book is a revelation. To see Carolyn Lamb through your eyes is really like seeing her for the first time. I'm ashamed to say, I never really liked her fiction, and now, right you are. It's extraordinary stuff. Early 19th is my period, as much as anything is.
You teach?
Yes, and right, you know, like we all, though I've never done anything which is sold, like the Caro.
I don't teach.
No, all the more credit to you to rehabilitate a forgotten writer. I suppose you could say that's the main reason for an English Dom.
Not to teach?
Oh, good God, no. Let the brats sort it out for themselves. Anyway, many congratulations. I expect someone will be bringing out Carolyn Lamb's oeuvre now.
Yes, I expect so.
How wonderful, bravo. Simply as a document shedding reflected light on the character of Lord Byron's, it's bound to be.
Bernard. You did say Bernard, didn't you?
I did.
I'm putting my shoes on again.
Oh. You're not going to go out.
No, I'm going to kick you in the balls.
Right. Point taken. Ezra Chater.
Ezra Chater.
Born Twickenham, Middlesex, 1778, author of 2 verse narratives, The Maid of Turkey, 1808, and The Couch of Eros, 1809. Nothing known after 1809 disappears from view.
I see. And?
There is a Sidley Park connection. Get my book. There's a Sidley Park connection I would love you to see. So, Couch of Eros, this copy. To my friend Septimus Hodge, who stood up and gave his best on behalf of the author, Ezra Chater, at Sidley Park, Derbyshire, April 10th, 1809. I am in your hands.
The Couch of Eros. Is it any good?
Quite surprising.
You think there's a book in him?
No. A monograph, perhaps, for the Journal of English Studies. There's almost nothing on Chater. Not a word in DNB, of course. By the time he'd been completely forgotten.
Family?
Zilch. There's only one other Chater in the British Library database.
Same period?
Yes, but he wasn't a poet like our Ezra. He was a botanist who described a dwarf dahlia in Martinique and died there afterwards, bitten by a monkey.
And Ezra Chater?
He gets 2 references in the periodical index, one for each book, in both cases a substantial review of the Piccadilly Recreation, thrice a weekly folio sheet, but giving no personal details.
And where was this?
Private collection. I've got to go to a talk next week in London, and I think Chater is interesting. So anything on him, or the Septimus Hodge, Sidley Park, any leads at all, I'd be most grateful.
Well, this is a new experience for me. A groveling academic.
Oh, I say.
Oh, but it is. All the academics who reviewed my book patronized it.
Surely not.
Surely yes. The Byron gang unzipped their flies and patronized all over it. Where is it you don't bother to teach, by the way?
Oh, well, Sussex, actually.
Sussex. Nightingale, yes. 1,000 words in the Observer to see me off the premises with a pat on the bottom. You must know him.
As I say, I'm in your hands.
Quite. Say please, then.
Please.
Sit down, do.
Thank you.
How did you know I was here?
Oh, I didn't. I spoke to the son on the phone, but he didn't mention you by name. And then he forgot to mention me.
Valentine. He's at Oxford, technically.
Yes, I met him. Brideshead regurgitated.
My fiancé.
I'll take a chance. You're lying.
Well done, Bernard.
Christ.
He calls me his fiancé.
Why?
It's a joke.
You turned him down?
Don't be silly. Do I look like the next Countess of...
No. A freebie. The joke that consoles. My tortoise lighting. My fiancée, Hannah.
Oh, yes. You have a way with you, Bernard. I'm not sure I like it.
What's he doing, Valentine?
He's a postgrad. Biology.
No. He's a mathematician.
Well, he's doing grouse.
Grouse?
Not actual grouse, computer grouse.
Who's the one who doesn't speak?
Gus.
What's the matter with him?
I didn't ask.
And the father sounds like a lot of fun.
Ah, yes.
And the mother is a gardener. What's going on here?
What do you mean?
I nearly took her head off. She was standing in a trench at the time.
Archaeology. The house had a formal Italian garden until about 1740. Lady Croom is interested in garden history. I sent her my book. It contains, as you know if you've read it, which I'm not assuming, by the way, a rather good description of Caroline's garden at Brockett Hall. I'm here now helping Hermione.
Hermione?
The records are unusually complete, and they've never been worked on.
I'm beginning to admire you.
Before was bullshit?
Completely. Your photograph does you justice. I'm not sure the book does.
Septimus Hodge was the tutor.
Atta girl.
His pupil was the Croom daughter. There was a son at Eton. Septimus lived in the house. The paybook specifies allowance for wine and candles. So, not quite a guest, but rather more than a steward. His letter of self-recommendation is preserved among the papers. I'll dig it out for you. As far as I remember, he studied mathematics and natural philosophy at Cambridge. A scientist, therefore, as much as anything.
I'm impressed. Thank you. And Shader?
Nothing.
Ugh, nothing at all?
I'm afraid not.
How about the library?
The catalog was done in the 1880s. I've been through the lot.
Books or catalog?
Catalog.
Pity.
I'm sorry.
What about the letters? No mentions?
I'm afraid not. I've been very thorough in your period because, of course, it's my period too.
Is it? Oh, actually, I don't quite know what it is you're...
The Sidley Hermit.
Who's he?
He's my peg for the nervous breakdown of the romantic imagination. I'm doing landscape and literature, 1750 to 1834.
What happened in 1834?
My hermit died.
Of course.
What do you mean, of course?
Nothing?
Yes, you do.
No. However, Coleridge also died in 1834.
So he did. What a stroke of luck. Thank you, Bernard. Look, there he is. The only known likeness of the Sidley Hermit.
Very biblical.
Drawn in by a later hand, of course. The Hermitage didn't yet exist when Noakes did the drawings.
Noakes? The painter?
Landscape gardener. He'd do these books for his clients as a sort of prospectus, before and after. You see, this is how it all looked until, say, 1810. Smooth, undulating, serpentine, open water, clumps of trees, classical boathouse.
Ah, lovely. The real England.
You can stop being silly now, Bernard. English landscape was invented by gardeners imitating foreign painters who were evoking classical authors. The whole thing was brought home in the luggage from the Grand Tour. Here, look, Capability Brown doing Claude, who was doing Virgil, Arcadia. And here, superimposed by Richard Noakes, untamed nature in the style of Salvator Rosa. It's the Gothic novel expressed in a landscape. Everything but vampires. There's an account of my hermit in a letter by your illustrious namesake.
Florence?
What?
No, you go on.
Thomas Love Peacock.
Ah, yes.
I found it in an essay on hermits and anchorites, published in the Cornhill magazine in the 1860s. 1862. Peacock calls him not one of your village simpletons to frighten the ladies, but a savant among idiots, a sage of lunacy.
Oxymoron, so to speak?
Yes. What?
Nothing.
Here we are. A letter we have seen, written by the author of Headlong Hall nearly 30 years ago, tells of a visit to the Earl of Croom's estate, Sidley Park.
Was that the letter to Thackeray?
I don't know. Does it matter?
No. Sorry. Oh, okay. So Thackeray edited the Cornhill until 63, when, as you know, he died. His father had been with the East India Company, where Peacock, of course, held the position of examiner. So it's quite possible that if the essay were by Thackeray, the letter, go on. Of course, the East India Library in Blackfriars was one of Peacock, has most of Peacock's letters. So it'd be quite easy to, sorry, can I look? Yes, it's been topped and tailed. Of course, it might be worth. Go on. I'm listening. Oh no, wait. Oh yes, it's Thackeray, all right. Unbearable. What were you saying?
Are you always like this?
Like what?
The point is, the Crooms, of course, had the hermit under their noses for 20 years, so hardly thought him worth remarking, as I'm finding out. The Peacock letter is still the main source, unfortunately. When I read this, well, it was one of those moments that tell you what your next book is going to be. The Hermit of Sidley Park was my...
Hey?
Epiphany.
Ah, Epiphany, that's it.
The hermit was placed in the landscape, exactly as one might place a pottery gnome. And there he lived out his life as a garden ornament.
Did he do anything?
Oh, he was very busy. When he died, the cottage was stacked solid with paper. Hundreds of pages, thousands. Peacock says he was suspected of genius. It turned out, of course, he was off his head. He'd covered every sheet with Kabbalistic proofs that the world was coming to an end. It's perfect, isn't it? A perfect symbol, I mean.
Oh, yes. Of what?
The whole romantic sham, Bernard. It's what happened to the Enlightenment, isn't it? A century of intellectual rigor turned in on itself. A mind in chaos suspected of genius, in a setting of cheap thrills and false emotion. The history of the garden says it all, beautifully. There's an engraving of Sidley Park in 1730 that makes you want to weep. Paradise in the age of reason. By 1760, everything had gone. The topiary, pools and terraces, fountains, avenue of limes. The whole sublime geometry was plowed under by Capability Brown. The grass went from the doorstep to the horizon, and the best box hedge in Derbyshire was dug up for the ha-ha, so that the fools could pretend they were living in God's countryside. And then Richard Noakes came in to bring God up to date. By the time he'd finished it looking like this, the decline from thinking to feeling, you see.
That's awfully good. No, that'll stand up.
Thank you.
Personally, I like the ha-ha. Do you like the hedges?
I don't like sentimentality.
Yes, I see. Are you sure? You seem quite sentimental over geometry. But the hermit is very good. The genius of the place.
That's my title.
Of course.
Of course.
Of course. Who was he when he wasn't being a symbol?
I don't know.
Ah,
I mean, yet.
absolutely. What did they do with all the papers? Does Peacock say?
Made a bonfire.
Ah, well,
I've still got Lady Croom's garden books to go through.
account books or journals?
A bit of both. They're gappy, but they span the period.
Really? Have you come across any Byron at all? As a matter of interest.
A first edition of Childe Harold in the library, and English bards, I think.
Inscribed?
No.
And he doesn't pop up in the letters at all.
Why should he? The Crooms don't pop up in his.
That's true, of course, but Newstead isn't so far away. Would you mind terribly if I poked about a bit? Only in the papers you've done with, of course.
Are you looking into Byron or Chater?
Sorry, just cutting through. There's tea in the pantry if you don't mind mugs.
How kind.
Hannah will show you.
Let me help you.
No, it's all right. Thank you. I've been saving Val's game books. Thanks.
Girl.
Hmm.
Oh, really?
Oh, really what?
Meant to say, don't worry if Father makes remarks about your car, Mr. Nightingale. He's got a thing about... How is the surprise? Not yet, eh? Well, sorry. Tea anyway? So sorry if I, oh.
You absolute shit.
The thing is, there's a Byron connection too.
I don't care.
You should. The Byron gang are going to get their dicks caught in their zip.
Really?
We can collaborate.
On what?
Sit down. I'll tell you.
I'll stand for the moment.
This copy of Couch of Eros belonged to Lord Byron.
It belonged to Septimus Hodge.
Originally, yes, but it was in Byron's library, which was sold to pay off his debts when he left England for good in 1816. The sales catalog is in the British Library. Eros was lot 74A and bought by the bookseller and publisher John Nightingale of Opera Court, Pall Mall, whose name survives in the firm of Nightingale and Peacock and Matlock, the present Nightingale being my cousin. I'll just give you the headlines. In 1939, stock removed the to Nightingale Company, Country House in Kent. 1945, stock returned to bookshop. Meanwhile, overlocked books, a box of 19th century books, languish in Country House cellar until sold to make way for the Channel Tunnel rail link. Eros discovered with sales slip from 1860 attached. A photocopy available for inspection.
All right. It was in Byron's library.
Here, a number of passages have been underlined. All of them, and only them. No, look to me. Not at the book. All the underlined passages, word for word, were used as quotations in the review of the Couch of Eros in the Piccadilly Recreation of April 30th, 1809. The reviewer begins by drawing attention to his previous note in the same periodical of the Maid of Turkey.
The reviewer is obviously Hodge, my friend Septimus Hodge, who stood up and gave his best on behalf of the author.
That's the point. The Piccadilly ridiculed both books.
Do the reviews read like Byron?
Here. They read a damn sight more like Byron than Byron's review of Wordsworth the previous year.
I see. Well, congratulations. Possibly 2 previously unknown book reviews by the young Byron. Is that it?
No. Because of the tapes, 3 documents survived undisturbed in the book. Sir, we have a matter to settle. I wait on you in the gun room. E. Chater, Esquire. Next. My husband has sent to town for pistols. Deny what cannot be proven. For charity's work. I keep my room this day. Unsigned. Sidley Park, April 11th, 1809. Sir, I call you a liar, a lecher, a slanderer in the press, and a thief of my honor. I wait upon your arrangements for giving me satisfaction as a man and a poet. E. Chater, Esquire.
Superb, but inconclusive. The book had 7 years to find its way into Byron's possession. It doesn't connect Byron with Chater or with Sidley Park, or with Hodge for that matter. Furthermore, there isn't a hint in Byron's letters, and this kind of scrape is the last thing he would have kept quiet about.
Scrape?
He would have made a comic turn out of it.
Comic turn fiddlesticks. He killed Chater.
Oh, really?
Chater was 31 years old, the author of 2 books. Nothing more is heard from him after Eros. He disappeared completely after April 1809. And Byron had just published his satire, English Bards and Scotch Reviewers, in March. He was just getting a name. Yet he sailed for Lisbon as soon as he could find a ship and stayed abroad for 2 years, Hannah. Somewhere in the Croom papers, there will be something.
There isn't. I've looked.
But you were looking for something else. It isn't going to jump out at you like Lord Byron remained wittily at breakfast.
Nevertheless, his presence would be unlikely to have gone unremarked, but there is nothing to suggest that Byron was here, and I don't believe he ever was.
Right. But let me give a look.
You'll queer my pitch.
Dear girl, I know how to handle myself.
Don't call me dear girl. If I find anything on Byron or Chater or Hodge, I'll pass it on. Nightingale, Sussex.
Thank you. I'm sorry for that business with my name.
Don't mention it.
What was Hodge's college, by the way?
Trinity.
Trinity?
Yes. Byron's old college.
How old was Hodge?
I have to look it up, but a year or 2 older than Byron. 22?
Contemporaries at Trinity?
Yes, Bernard, and no doubt they were both in the cricket 11 when Harrow played Eton at Lord's.
Do you mean Septimus Hodge was at school with Byron?
Yes, he must have been. As a
Well,
matter
you
of fact.
silly cow.
Oh, I thought I'd bring it to you.
I'll have to go and see about my car.
Going to hide it?
Hide it, I'm going to sell it. Is there a pub I can put up at the village? Aren't you glad I'm here?
He said he knew you.
He couldn't have.
No, perhaps not. He said he wanted to be a surprise, but I suppose that's different. I thought there was a lot of sexual energy there, didn't you?
What?
Bouncy on his feet, you see, a sure sign. Should I invite him for you?
To what? No.
You can invite him. That's better. He can come as your partner.
Pop it. Thank you for the tea.
If you don't want him, I'll have him. Is he married?
I haven't the slightest idea. Aren't you supposed to have a pony?
I'm trying to fix you up, Hannah.
Believe me, it gets less important.
I mean, for the dancing. He can come as Beau Brummel.
I don't want to dress up, and I don't want a dancing partner, least of all Mr. Nightingale. I don't dance.
Don't be such a prune. You were kissing him anyway.
He was kissing me, and only out of general enthusiasm.
Well, don't say I didn't give you first chance. My genius brother will be much relieved. He's in love with you. I suppose you know.
That's a joke.
It's not a joke to him.
Of course it is. Not even a joke. How can you be so ridiculous?
Hello, Gus. What have you got?
Oh. Thank you.
Told you.
Thank you. Oh dear.
Why have you stopped?
Solio, incessa, in Ine, seated on a throne in the fire, also on a ship, seated by Regina, sat the queen.
There's no reply, Jellyby, thank you.
I will say so, sir.
The wind smelling sweetly. Paparis velis. By, with, or from purple sails.
I will have something for the post if you would be so kind.
Yes, sir.
Was like as to something. By, with, or from lovers. Oh, Septimus. Musica tibiarum imperabat. Music of pipes commanded.
Ruled is better.
Silver oars, exciting the ocean as if amorous.
That is very good.
Regina reclined, but the queen was reclining. Praetor descriptonem indescribably in a golden tent, like Venus, and yet more.
Try to put some poetry into it.
How can I if there is none in the Latin?
Oh, a critic.
Is it Queen Dido?
No.
Who is the poet?
Known to you.
Known to me.
Not a Roman.
Mr. Chater?
Your translation is quite like Chater.
I know who it is. It is your friend Byron.
Lord Byron, if you please.
Mama is in love with Lord Byron.
Yes. Nonsense.
It is not nonsense. I saw them together in the gazebo. Lord Byron was reading to her from his satire, and Mama was laughing with her head in her best position.
She did not understand the satire and was showing politeness to a guest.
She is vexed with Papa for his determination to alter the park, but that alone cannot account for her politeness to a guest. She came downstairs hours before her custom. Lord Byron was amusing at breakfast. He paid you a tribute, Septimus.
Did he?
He said you were a witty fellow, and he had almost by heart an article you wrote about, well, I forget what, but it concerned a book called The Maid of Turkey and how you would not give it to your dog for dinner.
Ma. Mr. Chater was at breakfast, of course?
He was, not like certain lazy bones.
He does not have Latin to set and mathematics to correct.
Correct? What was incorrect in it? Alpha minus? Pooh, what is the minus for?
Or doing more than was asked.
You did not like my discovery.
A fancy is not a discovery.
A jibe is not a rebuttal. You are churlish with me because Mama is paying attention to your friend. Well, let them elope. They cannot turn back the advancement of knowledge. I think it is an excellent discovery. Each week, I plot your equations dot for dot, x's against y's in all manner of algebraical relation, and every week they draw themselves as commonplace geometry, as if the world of forms were nothing but arcs and angles. God's truth, Septimus. If there is an equation for a curve like a bell, there must be an equation for one like a bluebell. And if a bluebell, why not a rose? Do we believe nature is written in numbers?
We do.
Then why do your equations only describe the shapes of manufacture?
I do not know.
Armed thus, God could only make a cabinet.
His mastery of equations which lead into infinities where we cannot follow.
What a faint heart. We must work outward from the middle of the maze. We will start with something simple. I will plot this leaf and deduce its equation. You will be famous for being my tutor when Lord Byron is dead and forgotten.
Back to Cleopatra.
Is it Cleopatra? I hate Cleopatra.
You hate her. Why?
Everything is turned to love with her. No, new love, absent love, lost love. I never knew a heroine that makes such noodles of our sex. It only needs a Roman general to drop anchor outside the window, and away goes the empire like a christening mug into a pawn shop. If Queen Elizabeth had been a Ptolemy, history would have been quite different. We would be admiring the pyramids of Rome and the great Sphinx of Verona.
Oh, God save us.
But instead, the Egyptian noodle made carnal embrace with the enemy, who burned the great library of Alexandria without so much as a fine for all that is overdue. Oh, Septimus, can you bear it? All the lost plays of Athenians, 200 at least by Aeschylus, Sophocles, Euripides, thousands of poems. Aristotle's own library brought to Egypt by the noodle's ancestors. How can we sleep for grief?
By counting our stock. 7 plays from Aeschylus, 7 from Sophocles, 19 from Euripides, my lady. You should no more grieve for the rest than for a buckle lost from your first shoe, or for your lesson book, which will be lost when you are old. We shed as we pick up, like travelers who must carry everything in their arms, and what we let fall will be picked up by those behind. Procession is very long, and life is very short. We die on the march, but there is nothing outside the march, so nothing can be lost to it. The missing plays of Sophocles will turn up piece by piece, or be written again in another language. Ancient cures for diseases will reveal themselves once more. Mathematical discoveries glimpsed and lost to view will have their time again. You do not suppose, my lady, that if all of Archimedes had been hiding in the great library of Alexandria, we would be at a loss for a corkscrew? I've no doubt that the improved steam-driven heat engine, which puts Mr. Noakes into an ecstasy, that he and it in the modern age should all coincide, was described on papyrus. Steam and brass were not invented in Glasgow. Now, where are we? Let me see if I can attempt a free translation for you. At Harrow, I was better at this than Lord Byron. Yes, all right. Oh, yes. The barge she sat in like a burnished throne, burned on the water, the poop was beaten gold, purple the sails, and what's this? Oh yes. That let me see, the winds were lovesick with them.
Cheat!
The oars were silver to the tune of float, kept stroke, and made the water which they beat to follow faster as amorous of their strokes. For her own person it beggared all description, and she did lie in her pavilion. Oh.
Good God, man, what have you told her?
Told her what?
Hodge!
Chater, my dear fellow, don't hang back. Come in, sir. Come in. Mr. Chater.
Captain Bryce does me the honor. I mean to say, sir, whatever you have to say to me, sir, address yourself to Captain Bryce.
How unusual. Your wife did not appear yesterday, sir. I trust she is not sick.
My wife? I have no wife. What the devil do you mean, sir?
I do not understand the scheme, Chater. Whom do I address when I want to speak to Captain Bryce?
Oh, slippery, Hodge, slippery.
Oh, by the way, Chater. By the way, Chater, I have amazing news to tell you. Someone has taken to writing wild and whirling letters in your name. I received one not half an hour ago.
Mr. Hodge, look to your honor, sir. If you cannot attend to me without this foolery, nominate your second who might settle the business between gentlemen. No doubt your friend Byron would do you the service.
Oh, yes, he would do me the service. Sir, I repent your injury. You're an honest fellow, with no more malice in you than poetry.
Well, that is more like the thing. Is he apologizing?
There is still the injury to his conjugal property, Mrs. Chater.
Tush, sir.
As you will, tush, nevertheless.
Oh, excellently found. Mr. Chater, this will please you very much. Lord Byron begs a copy of your new book. He dies to read it and intends to include your name in the second edition of his English Bards and Scotch Reviewers.
English Bards and Scotch Reviewers? Your ladyship is a doggerel aimed at Lord Byron's seniors and betters. If he intends to include me, he intends to insult me.
Well, of course he does, Mr. Chater. Would you rather be thought of not worth insulting? You should be proud to be in the company of Rogers and Moore and Wordsworth. Oh, the couch of arrows.
That is my copy, madam.
Oh, so much better. What are a friend's books for, if not to be borrowed? Mr. Hodge, you must speak to your friend and have him put out of his affectation of pretending to quit us. I will not have it. He says he is determined on the Malta packet sailing out of Falmouth. His head is full of Lisbon and Lesbos, and his portmanteau of pistols, and I have told him it is not enough to be thought of. The whole of Europe is in a Napoleonic fit. All the best ruins will be closed. The roads entirely occupied with the movement of armies. The lodgings turned to billets and fashioned for godless republicanism. Not yet arrived at its natural perversion. He says his aim is poetry. One does not aim at poetry with pistols. At poets, perhaps. I charge you to take command of his pistols, Mr. Hodge. He is not safe with them. His lameness, he confessed to me, is entirely the result of his habit from boyhood of shooting himself in the foot. What is that noise?
The new Broadwood pianoforte, madam. Our music lessons are at an early stage.
Well, restrict your lessons to the piano side of the instrument and let her loose on the forte when she has learned something.
Now, if that was not God speaking through Lady Croom, he never spoke through anyone.
Take command of Lord Byron's pistols.
You hear me, Mr. Tater, sir? How will you answer him?
By killing him, I am tired of him.
Huh?
Oh, damn your souls, Chater. Ovid would have stayed a lawyer and Virgil a farmer if they had known the bathos to which love would descend in your sportive satyrs and noodle nymphs. I'm at your service with a half-ounce ball in your brain. May it satisfy you. Behind the boathouse at daybreak, shall we say 5 o'clock? Oh, my compliments to Mrs. Chater. Have no fear for her. She will not want for protection while Captain Bryce has a guinea in his pocket. He told her himself so.
You lie, sir.
Oh, no, sir. Mrs. Chater, perhaps.
You lie, sir, or you will answer to me.
Oh, very well. I can fit you in at 5 minutes after 5, and then it's off to the Malta packet out of Falmouth. You two will be dead. My penurious school friend will remain to tutor Lady Thomasina, and I trust everybody, including Lady Croom, will be satisfied.
Oh, he is all bluster and bladder, rest assured. Chater will let him.
Oh, but, oh.
I, Thomasina Coverley, have found a truly wonderful method whereby all the forms of nature must give up their numerical secrets and draw themselves through number alone. This margin being too mean for my purpose, the reader must look elsewhere for the new geometry of irregular forms discovered by Thomasina Coverley. Does it mean anything?
I don't know. I don't know what it means except mathematically.
I meant mathematically.
It's an iterated algorithm.
What's that?
Well, it's Jesus. It's an algorithm that's been iterated. How am I supposed to? The left-hand pages are graphs of what the numbers are doing on the right-hand pages, but all on different scales. Each graph is a small section of the previous one, blown up, like you blow up a detail in a photograph, and then a detail, and so on forever. Or in her case, till she ran out of pages.
Is it difficult?
The maths isn't difficult. It's what you did at school. You have some X and Y equation. Any value for Y gives you a value for, any value you have for X gives you a value for Y. So you put a dot where it's right for both X and Y. Then you take the next value for X, which gives you another value for Y. And then you've done that a few times, and you join up the dots, and that's your graph, whatever the equation is.
And is that what she's doing?
No, not exactly. What she's doing is every time she works out a value for Y, she's using that as her next value for X, and so on, like a feedback. She's feeding the solution back into the equation and then solving it again. Iteration, you see?
And that's surprising, is it?
Well, it is a bit. It's the technique I've been using on my grouse numbers, and it hasn't been around for much longer than, let's say, 20 years.
Why would she be doing it?
I have no idea. I thought you were doing the hermit.
I am. I still am. But Bernard, damn him. Thomasina's tutor turns out to have interesting connections. Bernard is going through the library like a bloodhound. The portfolio was in the cupboard.
There's a lot of stuff around. Gus loves going through it. No old masters or anything.
The maths primer she was using belonged to him, to the tutor. He wrote his name in it.
Septimus Hodge.
Why were these things saved, do you think?
Why should there be a reason?
And the diagram, what of it?
How would I know?
Why are you cross?
I'm not cross. When your Thomasina was doing maths, it had been the same maths for a couple of 1,000 years, classical, and for a century after Thomasina. Then maths left the real world behind. Just like modern art, really. Nature was classical, maths was suddenly Picasso's. But now nature is having the last laugh. The freaky stuff is turning out to be the mathematics of the natural worlds.
This feedback thing.
For example.
Well, could Thomasina have...
No, of course she bloody couldn't.
All right, you're not cross. What did you mean you were doing the same thing she was doing? What are you doing?
Actually, I'm doing it from the other end. She started with an equation and turned it into a graph. I've got a graph, real data, and I'm trying to find the equation which would give you the graph if you used it the way that she used hers. Iterated it.
What for?
It's how you look at population changes. In biology, goldfish in a pond, say, this year there are X goldfish. Next year, there'll be Y goldfish. Some get born, some get eaten by herons, whatever. Nature manipulates the X and turns it into Y. Then Y goldfish is your starting population for the following year. Just like Thomasina, your value for Y becomes your next value for X. The question is, what is being done to X? What is the manipulation? Whatever it is, it can be written down as mathematics. It's called an algorithm.
But it can't be the same every year.
The details change. You can't keep tabs on everything. It's not nature in a box, but it isn't necessary to know the details. When they are all put together, it turns out the population is obeying a mathematical rule.
The goldfish are.
Yes, no, the numbers. It's not about the behavior of fish. It's about the behavior of numbers. This thing works for any phenomenon which eats its own numbers. Measles epidemics, rainfall averages, cotton prices. It's a natural phenomenon itself. Spooky.
Does it work for grouse?
I don't know yet. I mean, it does, undoubtedly, but it's hard to show. There's more noise with grouse.
Noise?
Distortions, interference. Real data is messy. There's 1,000 acres of moorland that had grouse on it. Always did until about 1930, but nobody counted the grouse. They shot them. So you count the grouse they shot, but burning the heather interferes. It improves the food supply. A good year for foxes interferes the other way. They eat the chicks, and then there's the weather. It's all very, very noisy out there. Very hard to spot the tune. Like a piano in the next room. It's playing your song, but unfortunately it's out of whack. Some of the strings are missing, and the pianist is tone deaf and drunk. I mean, the noise. Impossible.
What do you do?
You start guessing what the tune might be. You try to pick it out of the noise. You try this, you try that. You start to get something, it's half-baked, but you start putting in notes which are missing or not quite the right notes, bit by bit. Dum da dum, dum dum dum, da 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 da. Valentine, dum da 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 da. The lost algorithm.
Yes, I see. And then what?
I publish.
Of course. Sorry, jolly good.
That's the theory. Grouse are bastards compared to goldfish.
Why did you choose them?
The game books, my true inheritance, 200 years of real data on a plate.
Somebody wrote down everything that's shot?
Well, that's what a game book is. I'm only using from 1870 when butts and beaters came in.
You mean the game books go back to Thomasina's time?
Yes, further. No, really, I promise you. I promise you. Not a schoolgirl living in a country house in Derbyshire in 18-something.
Well, what was she doing?
She was just playing with the numbers. The truth is she wasn't doing anything.
She must have been doing something.
Doodling, nothing she understood.
A monkey at a typewriter?
Yes, well, a piano.
A method whereby all the forms of nature must give up their numerical secrets and draw themselves through number alone. This feedback, is it a way of making pictures of forms in nature? Just tell me if it is or if it isn't.
To me, it is. Pictures of turbulence, growth, change, creation. It's not a way of drawing an elephant, for God's sake.
Sorry. So, you couldn't make a picture of this leaf by iterating a what's it?
You could do that.
Well, tell me. Honestly, I could kill you.
If you knew the algorithm and you fed it back, say, 10,000 times, each time there'd be a dot somewhere on the screen. You'd never know where to expect the next dot, but gradually you'd start to see the shape because every dot would be inside the shape of this leaf. It wouldn't be a leaf, it would be a mathematical object, but yes, the unpredictable and the predetermined function together to make things work. It's how nature creates itself on every scale, the snowflake and the snowstorm. It makes me so happy to be at the beginning again, knowing almost nothing. People were talking about the end of physics, relativity and quantum, looked as if we're going to clean out the whole problem between them, a theory of everything. But they only explained the very big and the very small, the universe, the elementary particles, the ordinary sized stuff, which is our lives, the things people write poetry about, clouds, daffodils, waterfalls, and what happens in a cup of coffee when the cream goes in. These things are full of mystery, as mysterious to us as the heavens were to the Greeks. We're better at predicting events at the edge of the galaxy or inside the nucleus of an atom than whether it'll rain on Auntie's garden party 3 Sundays from now, because the problem turns out to be different. We can't even predict the next drip from a dripping tap when it gets irregular. Each drip sets up the conditions for the next. The smallest variation blows prediction apart, and the weather is unpredictable the same way. Will always be unpredictable. When you push the numbers through the computer, you can see it on the screen. The future is disorder. A door like this has cracked open 5 or 6 times since we got up on our hind legs. It's the best possible time to be alive when almost everything you thought you knew is wrong.
The weather is fairly predictable in the Sahara.
The scale is different, but the graph goes up and down the same way. 6,000 years in the Sahara looks like 6 months in Manchester. I bet you.
How much?
Everything you have to lose.
No.
Quite right. That's why there was corn in Egypt.
What is he playing?
I don't know. He makes it up.
Chloe called him genius.
It's what my mother calls him, only she means it. Last year, some expert had her digging in the wrong place for months to find something or other. The foundation of Brown's boathouse, and Gus put her right first go.
Did he ever speak?
Oh, yes, until he was 5. You've never asked about him. You get high marks here for good breeding.
Yes, I know. I've always been given credit for my unconcern.
English bards and Scotch reviewers. A penciled superscription. Listen and kiss my cycle clips. O harbinger of sleep, who missed the press and hoped his drone might thus escape. Redress. The wretched Chater, bard of Eros's couch, for his narcotic let my pencil vouch. You see, you have to turn over every page.
Is it his handwriting?
Oh, come on.
Obviously not.
Christ, what do you mean?
I want proof.
Right. What are you talking about?
Proof? Proof? You'd have to be there, you silly bitch.
I say, you're speaking of my fiancée.
Especially when I have a present for you. Guess what I found? Lady Croom writing from London to her husband. Her brother, Captain Bryce, married a Mrs. Chater. In other words, one might assume, a widow.
I said he was dead. What year? 1810? My God, 1810. Well done, Hannah. Are you going to tell me it's a different Mrs. Chater?
Oh no, it's her all right. Note the Christian name.
Charity. Deny what cannot be proven for charity's sake.
Don't kiss me.
She won't let anyone kiss her.
You see, they wrote, they scribbled, they put it on paper. It was their employment, their diversion. Paper is all they had. And there will be more. There's always more. We can find it.
Such passion. First Valentine, now you. It's moving.
The aristocratic friend of a tutor, under the same roof as the poor sod, whose book he savaged. The first thing he does is seduce Chater's wife. All is discovered. Then there's a duel. Chater dead. Byron fled. P.S. Guess what? The widow married her ladyship's brother. Do you honestly think no one wrote a word? How could they not? It dropped from sight, but we will write it again.
You can, Bernard. I'm not going to take any credit. I haven't done anything.
Well, that's very fair, generous.
Prudent. Chater could have died of anything, anywhere.
But he fought a duel with Byron.
You haven't established it was fought. You haven't established it was Byron. For God's sake, Bernard, you haven't established Byron was even here.
I'll tell you the problem. No guts.
Really?
By which I mean a visceral belief in yourself. Gut instinct. The part of you which doesn't reason. The certainty for which there is no book reference. Because time is reversed. Talk, tick, goes the universe and then recovers itself. But it was enough. You were in there, and you bloody know.
Are you talking about Lord Byron the poet?
No, you fucking idiot. We're talking about Lord Byron, the chartered accountant.
Oh, well, he was here, all right, the poet.
How do you know?
He's in the game book. I think he shot a hare. I read through the whole lot once when I had mumps. Some quite interesting characters.
Where's the book?
It's not the one I'm using. Too early, of course.
1809.
They've always been in the commode. Ask Chloe. My mother's lent him her bicycle. Lending one's bicycle is a form of safe sex, possibly the safest there is. My mother is in a flutter about Bernard, and he's no fool. He gave her a first edition of Horace Walpole, and now she's lent him her bicycle. Can I keep these for a while?
Yes, of course.
Yes, finished. Coming now. I'm going to try to work out the diagram.
What I don't understand is why nobody did this feedback thing before. It's not like relativity. You don't have to be Einstein.
You couldn't see to look before. The electronic calculator was what the telescope was for Galileo.
Calculator?
There wasn't enough time before. There weren't enough pencils. This took her, I don't know how many days. And she hasn't scratched the paintwork. Now she'd only have to press a button, the same button over and over, iteration, a few minutes. And what I've done in a couple of months and with only a pencil, the calculations would take me the rest of my life to do again. Thousands of pages, tens of thousands, and so boring.
Do you mean...
All right, Gus, I'm coming.
Do you mean that was the only problem? Enough time and paper and boredom?
We're gonna get the dressing up box.
Val, is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying you'd have to have a reason to do it. He hates people shouting.
I'm sorry. But anything else?
Well, the other thing is you'd have to be insane.
Did it happen? Could it happen? Undoubtedly it could. Only 3 years earlier, the Irish poet Tom Moore appeared in the field of combat to avenge a review by Geoffrey of the Edinburgh. These affairs were seldom fatal and sometimes farcical, but potentially these affairs, but potentially the dueling stood in respect to the law, no differently from the murderer. As for the murderee, a minor poet like Ezra Chater could go to his death in a Derbyshire glade as unmissed and unremembered as his contemporary namesake. The minor botanist who died in the forests of the West Indies, lost to history like the monkey that bit him. On April 16th, 1809, a few days after he left Sidley Park, Byron wrote to his solicitor, John Hanson, "Here, if the consequences of my leaving England were 10 times as ruinous as you describe, I have no alternative. There are circumstances which render it absolutely indispensable, and I quit the country, and quit the country I must immediately, to which The editor's note in the collected letters reads as follows. What Byron's urgent reasons for leaving England were at this time has never been revealed. The letter was written from the family seat, Newstead Abbey, Nottinghamshire. A long day's ride from the northwest lay Sidley Park, the estate of the Coverleys, a far grander family raised by Charles II to the earldom of Croom.
Bernard, Val.
Do you mind?
Hannah?
What?
She's so rude.
What? Am I?
Bernard's reading us his lecture.
Yes, I know. Yes, that was rude. I'm sorry, Bernard.
What is this?
Spot on. The India Office Library. Peacock's letter in holograph. I got a copy sent.
Shut up.
Yes, sorry.
It's all right. I'll read it to myself.
No.
Go on, Bernard. Have I missed anything? Sorry.
The Byrons of Newstead, in 1809, compromised an eccentric widow and her undistinguished son, the lame brat, in quotes, who until the age of 10, when he came into his title, had been carted about the country from lodging to lodging by his vulgar, hectoring monster of a mother. Overruled, and who, 4 months past his 21st birthday, was a master of nothing but his debts and genius. Between the Byrons and the Coverleys, there was no social equity and none to be expected. The connection, undiscovered to posterity until now, was with Septimus Hodge, Byron's friend at Harrow and Trinity College. Sustained. Byron's contemporary at Harrow and Trinity College, and now a tutor in residence to the Croom daughter, Thomasina Coverley. Byron's letters tell us where she was on April 8th and April 12th. He was at Newstead, but on the 10th he was likely at Sidley Park, as attested by the game book preserved here. April 10th, 1809, forenoon, high cloud, dry, and sun between times, wind southeasterly. Self, Augustus, Lord Byron, 14 pigeon, 1 hare, Lord B. But, as we know now, the drama and life of death at Sidley Park was not about pigeons, but about sex and literature.
Unless you were the pigeon.
I don't have to do this. I'm paying you a compliment.
Ignore him, Bernard. Go on. Get to the duel.
Hannah's not even paying attention.
Yes, I am. It's all going in. I often work with the radio on.
Oh, thanks.
Is there much more?
Hannah!
No, it's fascinating. I just wondered how much more there was. I need to ask Valentine about this. Sorry, Bernard, go on. This will keep.
Yes, sorry, Bernard.
Please, Bernard.
Where was I?
Pigeons?
Sex.
Literature.
Ah, right. Life and death, right. Nothing could be more eloquent than that of these documents I have quoted. The terse demand to settle a matter in private, the desperate scribble of my husband has sent for pistols, and on April 11th, the gauntlet thrown down by the aggrieved and cuckolded author Ezra Chater. The covers have not survived. What's certain is that all these letters were in Lord Byron's possession when his books were sold in 1816, preserved in the pages of the Couch of Eros, which 7 years earlier at Sidley Park, Byron had borrowed from Septimus Hodge.
Borrowed?
I'll be taking questions at the end. Constructive comments will be welcome. What is indeed my reason for trying out the provinces before in London, my London opening, under the auspices of the Byron Society prior to publication. By the way, Valentine, do you want a credit? The game book recently discovered by...
It was never lost, Bernard.
As recently pointed out by... I don't normally like giving credit where it's due, but with scholarly articles, as with divorce, there's a certain cachet in citing a member of the aristocracy. It'll pop up in ad libs for the lecture and give you a mention in the press release. How's that?
Very kind.
Press release? What happened to the Journal of English Studies?
That comes later with the apparatus and in the recognized tone. Very dry, very modest, absolutely gloat-free, and yet unmistakably, eat your heart out, you dozy bastards. But first, it's media dawn, book early to avoid disappointment. Where was I?
Game book?
Eros?
Borrowed?
Ah, right. From Septimus Hodge. It is conceivable that the letters were already in the book when Byron borrowed it.
Yes.
Shut up, Val.
Well, it's conceivable.
It is likely that Hodge would have lent Byron the book without removing the 3 private letters.
Look, sorry, I only meant Byron could have borrowed the book without asking.
That's true.
Then why wouldn't Hodge get them back?
I don't know. I wasn't there.
That's right, you bloody weren't.
Go on, Bernard.
It is this third document, the challenge itself, that convinces Chater as a man and a poet, points the finger at his slanderer in the press. Neither as a man nor poet did Ezra, Chater, cut such a figure as to be habitually slandered, even mentioned in the press. It is surely indisputable that the slander was the review of the Maid of Turkey in the Piccadilly Recreation. Did Septimus Hodge have any connection with the London periodicals? No. Did Byron? Yes. He had reviewed Wordsworth 2 years earlier. He was to review Spenser 2 years later. And do we have any clue of Byron's opinion of Chater the poet? Yes. Who but Byron could have written the 4 lines penciled into Lady Crumb's copy of English Bards and Scotch Reviewers?
Almost anybody?
Darling.
Don't call me darling.
Dickhead, then. It is likely that the man Chater calls his friend Septimus Hodge is the same man who screwed his wife and kicked the shit out of his last book.
Put it like that, almost certain.
You've been deeply wounded in the past, haven't you, Hannah?
Nothing compared to listening to this. Why is there nothing in Byron's letters about the Piccadilly Reviews?
Exactly, because he killed the author.
But the first one, The Maid of Turkey, was the year before. Was he clairvoyant?
Letters get lost.
Thank you, exactly. There's a Platonic letter which confirms everything. Lost, but ineradicable, like radio voices rippling through the universe for all eternity. My dear Hodge, here I live in Albania, and you're the only person in the whole world who knows why. Poor C, I never wished him any harm, except in the Piccadilly, of course. It was the woman who bade me eat, dear Hodge. What a tragic business, but thank God it ended well for poetry. Yours ever, B. P.S.
Where did Chater find out the reviewer was Byron?
I don't know. I wasn't there, was I? You wish to say something?
Moi?
I know. Byron told Mrs. Chater in bed. Next day, he dumped her, so she grassed him and pleaded date rape.
Date rape? What do you mean, date rape?
April the 10th.
Right. Forget it.
Sorry.
No, I've had nothing but sarcasm and childish interruptions.
What did I do?
No credit for probably the most sensational literary discovery of the century.
I think you're jolly unfair. They're jealous, Bernard.
I won't say another word.
Yes, go on, Bernard, we promise.
Well, only if you stop feeding tortoises.
It's his lunchtime.
And on the condition that I am afforded the common courtesy of a scholar among scholars.
Absolutely mum till you're finished.
After which, any comments to be couched in terms of accepted academic
Dignity. You're right, Bernard.
respect.
Respect. Absolutely. The language of scholars. Count on it.
Last paragraph. Without question, Ezra Chater issued a challenge to somebody. If a duel was fought in the midst of Sidley Park in April 1809, his opponent, on the evidence, was a critic with a gift for ridicule and a taste for seduction. Do we need to look far? Without question, Mrs. Chater was a widow by 1810. If we seek the occasion of Ezra Chater's early and unrecorded death, do we need to look far? Without question, Lord Byron, in the very season of his emergence as a literary figure, quit the country in a cloud of panic and mystery, and stayed abroad for 2 years at a time when continental travel was unusual and dangerous. If we seek his reason, do we need to look far? Do we need to look far?
Bollocks.
Well, I think it's true.
You've left out everything which doesn't fit. Byron had been banging on for months about leaving England. There's a letter in February.
But he didn't go, did he?
And then he didn't sail until the beginning of July?
Everything moved more slowly then. Time was different. He was 2 weeks in Falmouth, waiting for wind or
Bernard,
something.
I don't know why I'm bothering. You're arrogant, greedy, and reckless. You've gone from a glint in your eye to a sure thing in a hop, skip, and a jump. You deserve what you get, and I think you're mad, but I can't help myself. You're like some exasperating child pedaling its tricycle towards the edge of a cliff, and I have to do something. So listen to me. If Byron killed Chater in a duel, I'm Marie of Romania. He'll end up with so much fame, you won't leave your house without a paper bag over your head.
Actually, Bernard, as a scientist, your theory is incomplete.
But I'm not a scientist.
No, as a scientist.
I have yet to hear a proper argument.
Nobody would kill a man and then pan his book. I mean, not in that order. So he must have borrowed the book, written the review, posted it, seduced Mrs. Chater, fought a duel, and departed all in the space of 2 or 3 days? Who would do that?
Byron!
It's hopeless.
You've never understood him, as you've shown in your novelette.
In my what?
Oh, sorry. Did you think it was a work of historical revisionism? Byron, the spoilt child, promoted beyond his gifts by the spirit of the age? And Caroline, the closet intellectual, shafted by a male society?
I read that somewhere.
It's his review.
And bloody well said, too. Oh, you've got them both backwards, darling. Caroline was a romantic waffle on wheels with no talent. And Byron was an 18th century rationalist touched by genius. And he killed Chater.
If it's not too late to change my mind, I'd like you to go ahead.
I intend to. Look to the mote in your own eye. You even had the wrong bloke on the dust jacket.
Dust jacket?
What about my computer model? Aren't you going to mention it?
It's inconclusive.
The Piccadilly reviews aren't a very good fit with Byron's other reviews, you see.
What do you mean, the wrong bloke?
The other reviews aren't a very good fit for each other, are they?
No, but differently. The parameters.
Parameters? You can't stick Byron's head in your laptop. Genius isn't like your average grouse.
Well, it's all trivial anyway.
What is?
Who wrote what when?
Trivial.
Personalities.
I'm sorry, did you say trivial?
It's a technical term.
Not where I came from. It isn't.
The questions you're asking don't matter, you see. It's like arguing who got there first with calculus. The English say Newton, the Germans say Leibniz, but it doesn't matter. Personalities. What matters is the calculus, scientific progress, knowledge.
Really? Why?
Why what?
Why does scientific progress matter more than personalities?
Is he serious?
No, he's trivial. Bernard.
Do yourself a favor. You're on a loser.
Oh, you're gonna zap me with penicillin and pesticides. Spare me that and I'll spare you the bomb and aerosols. But don't confuse progress with perfectibility. A great poet is always timely. A great philosopher is an urgent need. There's no rush for Isaac Newton. We are quite happy with Aristotle's cosmos. Personally, I preferred it. 55 crystal spheres geared to God's crankshaft is my idea of a satisfying universe. I can't think of anything more trivial than the speed of light. Quarks, quasars, Big Bangs, black holes. Who gives a shit? How did you people con us out of all that status, all that money, and why are you so pleased with yourselves?
Are you against penicillin, Bernard?
Don't feed the animals. I'd push the lot of you over a cliff myself. Except the one in the wheelchair, I think I'd lose sympathy vote before people had time to think it through.
What the hell do you mean, the dust jacket?
If knowledge isn't self-knowledge, it isn't doing much, mate. Is the universe expanding? Is it contracting? Is it standing on one leg and singing when Father painted the parlor? Leave me out. I can expand my universe without you. She walks in beauty, like the night of cloudless climes and starry skies. And all that's the best of dark and bright meet in her aspect and her eyes. There you are. He wrote it after coming home from a party. What is it that you're doing with grouse, Valentine? I'd love to know.
He's not against penicillin, and he knows I'm not against poetry. I've given up on the grouse.
You haven't, Valentine.
I can't do it.
Why?
It's too much noise. There's just too much bloody noise.
You bastard, Bernard.
Well, I think that's everybody. You can leave now. Give lightning a kick on your way out.
Yes, I am sorry about that. It's no fun when it's not among pros, is it?
No.
Oh, well. Do you know, or do you want to know, about your book jacket? Lord Byron and Caroline Lamb at the Royal Academy. Ink Study by Henry Fuseli.
What about it?
It's not them.
Who says?
The Fuseli expert in the Byron Society journal. They sent me the latest as a distinguished guest speaker.
But of course it's them. Everybody knows it's them.
Popular tradition only. Here we are. No earlier than 1820. He's analyzed. Read it at your leisure.
Analyzed it?
Charming sketch, of course, but Byron was in Italy.
But, Bernard, I know it's them.
How?
How? It just is. Analyzed it, my big toe.
Language.
He's wrong.
Oh, gut instinct, you mean?
He's wrong.
Well, it's all trivial, isn't it? Why don't you come?
Where?
With me.
To London? What for?
What for?
Oh, your lecture.
No, bugger that. Sex.
Oh, no. Thanks. Bernard!
Try it. It's very underrated.
Nothing against it.
Yes, you have. You should let yourself go a bit. You might have written a better book. Or at any rate, the right book.
Sex and literature, literature and sex. Your conversation, left to itself, doesn't have many places to go. Like two marbles rolling around a pudding basin. One of them is always sex.
Oh, well, yes. Men all over.
No doubt. Einstein, relativity and sex. Chippendale, sex and furniture. Galileo, did the earth move? The hell is it with you people? Chaps sometimes wanted to marry me, and I don't know a worse bargain. Available sex against not being allowed to fart in bed? What do you mean, the right book?
It takes a romantic to make a heroine out of Carolyn Lamb. You were cut out for Byron.
So, cheerio.
Oh, I'm coming back for the dance, you know. Chloe asked me.
She meant well, but I don't dance.
Oh, no. I'm going with her.
Oh, I see. No, I don't, actually.
I'm her date. Sub Rosa, don't tell mother.
She doesn't want her mother to know?
No, I don't want her mother to know. This is my first experience of the landed aristocracy. I'll tell you, I'm boggle-eyed.
Bernard, you haven't seduced the girl.
Seduced her. Every time I turned around, she was up a library ladder. In the end, I gave in. That reminds me, I spotted something between her legs that made me think of you. The Park's Traveler and Gazetteer, James Godolphin, 1832. Unillustrated, I'm afraid. Sidley Park in Derbyshire, property of the Earl of Croom.
The world is going to hell in a handcart.
500 acres, including 40 of lake. The park by Brown and Noakes has pleasing features in the horrid style, viaduct, grotto, etc. A hermitage occupied by a lunatic since 20 years without discourse or companion, save for a pet tortoise, Plautus by name, which he suffers children to touch on request. A tortoise. They must be a feature.
Thank you.
The station taxi is at the front.
Yes, thanks. Oh, did Peacock come up trumps?
For some.
Hermit's name and CV? My dear Thackeray. God, I'm good. Well, wish me luck. Sorry about, you know, and about your...
Piss off, Bernard.
Don't let Bernard get to you. It's only performance art, you know. Rhetoric. They used to teach it in ancient times, like PT. It's not about being right. They had philosophy for that. Rhetoric was their chat show. Bernard's indignation is a sort of aerobics for when he gets on television.
I don't care to be rubbished by the dustbin man. The what of the lunatic?
The Testament of the Lunatic serves as a caution against French fashion, for it was Frenchified mathematic that brought him to the melancholy certitude of a world without light or life. as a wooden stove that must consume itself until ash and stove are as one, and the heat is gone from the earth.
Huh.
He died, aged 67, hoary as Job and meager as a cabbage stalk, the proof of his prediction, even yet unyielding to his labors for the restitution of hope through good English algebra.
That's it.
Is there anything in it?
In what? We are all doomed. Oh yes, sure. It's called the second law of thermodynamics.
Was it known about?
By poets and lunatics from time immemorial.
Seriously.
No.
Is it anything to do with, Thomasina's discovery?
She didn't discover anything.
Her lesson book?
No.
A coincidence then?
What is?
He died aged 67. That was in 1834. So he was born in 1787. So was the tutor. He says so in his letter to Lord Croom when he recommended himself for the job. Date of birth, 1787. The hermit was born the same year as Septimus Hodge.
Did Bernard bite you in the leg?
Don't you see? I thought my hermit was a perfect symbol, an idiot in the landscape. But this is better. The age of enlightenment vanished into the romantic wilderness. The genius of Sidley Park living on in a hermit's hut.
You don't know that.
Oh, but I do. I do. Somewhere there will be something. If only I can find it.
Mr. Hodge.
Thank you, Jellyby. I was expecting to be locked out. What time is it?
5:30.
This is what I have. Well, what a bracing experience. The dawn, unexpectedly lively. Fishes, birds, frogs, rabbits, and very beautiful. If only it did not occur so early in the day. I've brought Lady Thomasina a rabbit. Will you take it?
It's dead.
Yes. Lady Thomasina loves a rabbit pie.
Oh, you were missed, Mr. Hodge.
I decided to sleep last night in the boathouse. Did I see a carriage leaving the park?
Captain Bryce's carriage with Mr. and Mrs. Chater also.
Gone?
Yes, sir. And Lord Byron's horse was brought round at 4:00.
Lord Byron, too?
Yes, sir. The house has been up and hopping.
But I have his rabbit pistols. What am I to do with his rabbit pistols?
You were looked for in your room.
By whom?
By her ladyship.
In my room.
I will tell her ladyship you are returned.
Jellyby, did Lord Byron leave a book for me?
A book?
He had the loan of a book from me.
His lordship left nothing in his room, sir. Not a coin.
Oh. Well, I'm sure he would have left a coin if he had one. Jellyby, here is a half-guinea for you.
Thank you very much, sir.
What has occurred?
The servants are told nothing, sir.
Oh, come, does a half-guinea buy nothing anymore?
Her ladyship encountered Mrs. Chater during the night.
Where?
On the threshold of Lord Byron's room.
Ah. Which one was leaving and which one was entering?
Mrs. Chater was leaving Lord Byron's room.
And where was Mr. Chater?
Mr. Chater and Captain Bryce were drinking cherry brandy. They had the footman to keep the fire up until, 3:00. There was a loud altercation upstairs and...
Well, Mr. Hodge.
My lady?
All this to shoot a hare.
A rabbit. No, indeed, a hare, though very rabbit-like.
My infusion.
Yes, my lady.
How dare you?
I cannot be called to account for what was written in private and read without regard to propriety.
Addressed to me.
Left in my room in the event of my death.
Ha! What earthly use is a love letter from beyond the grave?
As much, surely, as from this side of it. The second letter, however, was not addressed to your ladyship.
Well, I have a mother's right to open a letter addressed to you to my daughter, whether in the event of your life, your death, or your imbecility. What do you mean by writing to her of rice pudding when she has just suffered the shock of violent death in our midst?
Whose death?
Yours, you wretch!
Oh, yes, I see.
I do not know which is the matter of your ravings. One envelope full of rice pudding and the other of the most insolent familiarities regarding several parts of my body, but have no doubt which is the more intolerable to me.
Which?
Oh, aren't we saucy when our bags are packed? Your friend has gone before you, and I have dispatched the harlot Chater and her husband, and also my brother for bringing them here. Such is the sentence, you see, for choosing unwisely in your acquaintance. Banishment. Lord Byron is a rake and a hypocrite, and the sooner he sails for the Levant, the sooner he will find society congenial to his character.
It has been a night of reckoning.
Indeed. I wish it had passed uneventfully with you and Mr. Chater shooting each other with a decorum due to a civilized house. You have no secrets left, Mr. Hodge. They spilled out between shrieks and oaths and tears. It's fortunate that a lifetime devotion to the sporting gun has halved my husband's hearing to the ear he sleeps on.
I am afraid I have no knowledge of what has occurred.
Your trollop was discovered in Lord Byron's room.
Discovered by Mr. Chater.
Well, who else?
I'm very, very sorry, madam, having used your kindness to bring my unworthy friend to your notice. He will have to give an account of himself to me, you may be sure.
I will do it.
Yes, my lady. Lord Byron left a letter for you with the valet, sir.
Thank you.
When did he do so?
As he was leaving, your ladyship.
Allow me.
I do not know if it is proper for you to receive a letter written in my house from someone not welcome in it.
Very improper, I agree. Lord Byron's want of delicacy is a grief to his friends, among whom I no longer count myself. I will not read his letter until I have followed him through the gates.
That may excuse the reading, but not the writing.
Your ladyship should have lived in the Athens of Pericles. The philosophers would have fought the sculptors for your idle hour.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
Now, there's a thing. A letter from Lord Byron, never to be read by a living soul. I will take my leave, madam, at the time of your desiring it.
To the Indies?
The Indies? Why?
To follow the Chater, of course. Did she not tell you?
She did not exchange half a dozen words with me.
I expect she did not like to waste the time. The Chater sails with Captain Bryce.
Ah, as a member of the crew.
No, as wife to Mr. Chater, plant gatherer to my brother's expedition.
I knew he was no poet. I did not know it was botany under the false colors.
He is no more a botanist. My brother paid £50 to have him published, and he will pay £150 to have Mr. Chater picking flowers in the Indies for a year, while the wife plays mistress of the captain's quarters. Captain Bryce has fixed his passion on Mrs. Chater, and to take on a voyage, he has not scrupled to deceive the Admiralty, the Linnean Society, and Sir Joseph Banks, botanist to His Majesty at Kew.
Her passion is not as fixed as his.
It is a defect of God's humor that he directs our hearts everywhere but to those who have a right to them.
Indeed, madam. But is Mr. Chater deceived?
He insists on it, and finds the proof of his wife's virtue in his eagerness to defend it. Captain Bryce is not deceived, but he cannot help himself. He would die for her.
I think, my lady, he would have Mr. Chater die for her.
Indeed. I never knew a woman worth a duel, or the other way about. Your letter to me goes very ill with your conduct to Mrs. Chater, Mr. Hodge. I've had experience of being betrayed before the ink is dry, but to be betrayed before the pen is even dipped, and with the village notice board, what am I to think of such a performance?
My lady, I was alone with my thoughts in the gazebo when Mrs. Chater ran me to the ground, and I, being in such a passion, in agony of unrelieved desire, I thought my madness, that the Chater with her skirts over her head would give me the momentary illusion of happiness to which I dared not put a face.
I do not know when I have received such a more unusual compliment, Mr. Hodge. I hope I am more than a match for Mrs. Chater with her head in a bucket. Does she wear drawers?
She does.
Yes. I have heard that drawers are being worn now. It is unnatural for women to be got up like jockeys. I cannot approve. I know nothing of Pericles or the Athenian philosophy. I can spare them an hour in my sitting room when I have bathed. 7 o'clock. Bring a book.
Even in Arcadia, sex, literature, and death at Sidley Park. Picture of Byron.
Not of Bernard?
Byron fought fatal duel, says John. Valentine, do you think I'm the first person to have thought this?
No.
I haven't said it yet. The future is all programmed, like a computer. That's a proper theory, isn't it?
The deterministic universe, yes.
Right, because everything, including us, is just a lot of atoms bouncing off each other like billiard balls.
Yes. There was someone, forget his name, 1820s, who pointed out that from Newton's laws you could predict everything to come. I mean, you'd need a computer as big as the universe, but the formula would exist.
But it doesn't work, does it?
No, it turns out the maths is different.
No, it's all because of sex.
Really?
That's what I think. The universe is deterministic, all right, just like Newton said. I mean, it's trying to be, but the only thing going wrong is people fancying people who aren't supposed to be part of the plan.
Ah, the attraction Newton left out. All the way back to the apple in the garden. Yes, I think you're the first person to think of this.
Have you seen this? Bonking Byron shot poet.
Let's see.
He's done awfully well, hasn't he? How did they all know?
Don't be ridiculous. Your father wants it back.
All right.
What a fool.
Jealous. I think he's brilliant. Yes, that's perfect, but not with trainers. Come on, I'll lend you a pair of flatties. They'll look period on you.
Hello, Gus. You all look so romantic.
Are you coming?
The important thing is not to give two monkeys for what young people think about you.
You don't think she's getting a thing about Bernard, do you?
I wouldn't worry about Chloe. She's old enough to vote on her back. Byron fought fatal duel, says Don. Or rather, says Don.
It may all prove to be true.
It can't prove to be true. It can only not prove to be false yet.
Just like science.
If Bernard can stay ahead of getting the rug pulled till he's dead, he'll be a success.
Just like science. The ultimate fears of posterity.
Personally, I don't think it'll take that long.
And then there's the afterlife. An afterlife would be a mixed blessing. Ah, Bernard Nightingale. I don't believe you know Lord Byron. It must be heaven up there.
You can't believe in an afterlife, Valentine.
Oh, you're going to disappoint me at last.
Am I? Why?
Science and religion?
No, been there, done that, boring.
Oh, Hannah, fiancé, have pity. Can't we have a trial marriage? And I'll call it off in the morning.
I don't know when I've received a more unusual proposal.
Have you had many?
That would be telling.
Well, why not? Your classical reserve is only a mannerism and neurotic.
Do you want the room?
You get nothing if you give nothing.
I ask nothing.
No, stay.
What are you doing, Valentine?
The set of points on a complex plane made by...
Is it the grouse?
Oh, the grouse, the damned grouse.
You mustn't give up.
Why, didn't you agree with Bernard?
Oh, that. It's all trivial. Your grouse, my hermit, Bernard's Byron. Comparing what we're looking for misses the point. It's wanting to know that makes us matter. Otherwise, we're going out the way we came in. That's why you can't believe in the afterlife, Valentine. Believe in the after by all means, but not the life. Believe in God, the soul, the spirit, the infinite. Believe in angels if you like, but not in the great celestial get-together for an exchange of views. If the answers are in the back of the book, I can wait. But what a drag. Better to struggle on knowing that failure is final. Oh, but how beautiful.
The Coverley set.
The Coverley set? My goodness, Valentine.
Lend me a finger. See, in an ocean of ashes, islands of order, patterns making themselves out of nothing. I can't show you how deep it goes. Each picture is a detail of the previous one, blown up, and so on, forever. Pretty nice, eh?
Is it important?
Interesting, publishable.
Well done.
Not me. It's Thomasina's. I just pushed her equations through the computer a few million times further than she managed to do with her pencil. You can have it back now.
What does it mean?
Not what you'd like it to.
Why not?
Well, for one thing, she'd be famous.
No, she wouldn't. She was dead before she had time to be famous.
She died.
Burned to death.
Oh, the girl who died in the fire.
The night before her 17th birthday. You can see where the dormer doesn't match. That was her bedroom under the roof. There's a memorial in the park.
I know. It's my house.
Val, Septimus was her tutor. He and Thomasina would have...
You do yours.
You swore you crossed your heart.
I'll tell Mama. I'll tell Mama.
You beast.
Hush. What is this, my lord? Order! Order! I am obliged.
Oh, well, good day to you, Mr. Hodge.
Will you join us this morning, Lord Augustus? We have our drawing lesson.
I'm a master at it at Eton, Mr. Hodge, but we only draw naked women.
You may work from memory.
Disgusting.
We will have silence now, if you please.
No, Marx, did you not like my rabbit equation?
I saw no resemblance to a rabbit.
It eats its own progeny.
I did not see that.
I have not room to extend it.
Do you mean the world is saved after all?
No, it's still doomed. But if this is how it started, perhaps it's how the next one will come.
From good English algebra?
It will go to infinity or zero or nonsense.
No, if you set apart the minus roots, they square back to sense.
Listen, you know your tea is getting cold.
I like it cold.
I'm telling you something. Your tea gets cold by itself. It doesn't get hot by itself. Do you think that's odd?
No.
Well, it is odd. Heat goes to cold. It's a one-way street. Your tea will end up at room temperature. What's happening to your tea is happening to everything. Everywhere, the sun and the stars. It'll take a while, but we're all going to end up at room temperature. When your hermit set up shop, nobody understood this. But let's say you're right. In 18 whatever, nobody knew more about heat than this scribbling nutter living in a hovel in Derbyshire.
He was at Cambridge, a scientist.
Say he was. I'm not arguing. And the girl was his pupil. She had a genius for a tutor.
Or the other way around.
Anything you like, but not this. Whatever he thought he was doing to save the world with good English algebra, it wasn't this.
Why? Because they didn't have calculators?
No, yes. Because there's an order things can't happen in. You can't open a door till there's a house.
I thought that's what genius was.
Only for lunatics and poets.
I had a dream, which was not all a dream. The bright sun was extinguished, and the stars did wander darkling in the eternal space, rayless and pathless, and the icy earth swung blind and blackening in the moonless air.
Your own?
Byron.
Septimus, do you think that I will marry Lord Byron?
Who is he?
He is the author of Childe Harold's Pilgrimage, the most poetical and pathetic and bravest hero of any book I ever read before, and the most modern and the handsomest, for Harold is Lord Byron himself to those who know him, like myself and Septimus. Well, Septimus?
No.
Why not?
For one thing, he is not aware of your existence.
We exchanged many significant glances when he was at Sidley Park. I do wonder that he has been home almost a year from his adventures and has not written to me once.
It is indeed improbable, my lady.
Oh, Lord Byron, he claimed my hair, although I think my shot was earlier. He said I missed by a hair's breadth. His conversation was very facetious, but I think Lord Byron will not marry you, Tom, for he was only lame and not blind.
Peace! Peace until 11:45. It is intolerable for a tutor to have his thoughts interrupted by his pupils.
You are not my tutor, sir. I am visiting your lesson by my free will.
If you are so determined, my lord.
Your peace is nothing to me. Sir, you do not roll over me.
Augustus! justice.
I do not rule here, my lord. I inspire by reverence for learning and the exaltation of knowledge, whereby men may approach God. Then will be a shilling for the best cone and pyramid drawn in silence by 11:45 at the earliest.
He will not buy my silence for a shilling, sir. What I know is worth well more than that.
I told him you kissed me, but he will not tell.
When did I kiss you?
What? Yesterday.
Where?
On the lips.
In which county?
In the Hermitage, Septimus.
On the lips in the Hermitage. That was not a shilling kiss. I would not give 6 pence to have it back. I had almost forgotten it already.
Oh, cruel. Have you forgotten our compact?
Oh, God save me, our compact.
To teach me to waltz, sealed with a kiss, and a second cue when I can dance like Mamma.
Yes. We were all waltzing like mice in London.
I must waltz, Septimus. I will be despised if I do not waltz. It is the most fashionable and gayest and boldest invention conceivable, started in Germany.
Let them have the waltz. They cannot have the calculus.
Mamma has brought from town a whole book of waltzes for the Broadwood to play with Count Zielinski.
I need not be told what I cannot suffer. Count Zielinski banging on the Broadwood without relief has me reading in waltz time.
Oh, stuff. What is your book?
A prize essay of the Scientific Academy in Paris. The author deserves your indulgence, my lady, for you are in his profit.
I? What does he write about? The waltz?
Yes. He demonstrates the equation of the propagation of heat in a solid body, but in doing so, he has discovered heresy, a natural contradiction of Sir Isaac Newton.
Oh, he contradicts determinism?
No. Well, perhaps. He shows that the atoms do not go according to Newton.
Let me see. Oh, in French.
Yes, Paris is the capital of France.
Show me where to read. Four-handed now. Mamma is in love with the Count.
He is a count in Poland. In Derbyshire, he is a piano tuner.
Oh, where's Gus?
Don't know.
Ah, Mr. Noakes' engine.
Damn.
Mr. Noakes.
He was there not long ago.
Hello.
Well, he has to be in the photograph. Is he dressed?
Is Bernard back?
No, he's late. Gus!
I wonder you can teach against such a disturbance, and I am sorry for it, Mr. Hodge.
Stop ordering everybody about.
It is an unendurable noise.
The photographer will wait.
The ceaseless, dull, overbearing monotony of it. It'll drive me distracted. I may have to return to town to escape it.
Your ladyship could remain in the country and let Count Zielinski return to town where you would not hear him.
I mean Mr. Noakes' engine. Would you sulk? I will not have my daughter's studies sulking.
What, Mamma?
What are we learning today? Well, not manners.
We are drawing today.
Geometry. I approve of geometry.
Your ladyship's approval is my constant object.
Well, do not despair of it. Where is culpability Noakes? No. He has gone for his hat, so he may remove it. For the widow's dowry of dahlias, I can almost forgive my brother's marriage. We must be thankful the monkey bit the husband. If it had bit the wife, the monkey would be dead, and we would not be the first in the kingdom to show a dahlia. I sent one potted to Chatsworth. The Duchess was most satisfactorily put out by it when I called at Devonshire House. Your friend was lording it there as poet.
Well, just as I said, Newton's machine, which would knock out atoms from cradle to grave by the laws of motion, is incomplete. Determinism leaves the road at every corner, as I knew all along. And the cause is very likely hidden in this gentleman's observation.
Of what?
The action of bodies in heat.
Is this geometry?
This? No, I despise geometry.
The Chater would overthrow the Newtonian system in a weekend.
Geometry, Hobbes assures us in the Leviathan, is only science God has been pleased to bestow on mankind.
And what does he mean by it?
Mr. Hobbes or God?
I am sure I do not know what either means by it.
Oh, pooh to Hobbes. Mountains are not pyramids, and trees are not cones. God must love gunnery and architecture if Euclid is his only geometry. There is another geometry which I am engaged in discovering by trial and error, am I not, Septimus?
Trial and error perfectly describes your enthusiasm, my lady.
How old are you today?
16 years and 11 months, Mamma. And 3 weeks.
16 years and 11 months. We must have you married before you're educated beyond eligibility.
I'm going to marry Lord Byron.
Are you? He did not have the manners to mention it.
You have spoken to him?
Certainly not.
Where did you see him?
Everywhere.
Did you, Septimus?
At the Royal Academy, where I had the honor to accompany your mother and Count Zielinski.
What was Lord Byron doing?
Posing.
He was being sketched during his visit by the professor of painting, Mr. Fuseli.
There was more posing at the pictures than in them. His companion likewise reversed the custom of the Academy that the ladies viewing wear more than the ladies viewed. Well, enough. Let it be hanged for a lamb. I have enough with Mr. Noakes, who is to a garden what a bull is to a china shop.
The Emperor of Irregularity.
Mr. Noakes.
Your ladyship.
What have you done to me?
Everything is satisfactory, I assure you. A little behind, to be sure, but my dam will be repaired within the month.
Hush! Can you hear, Mr. Noakes?
The improved Newcomian steam pump, the only one in England.
That is what I object to. If everybody had his own, I would bear my portion of the agony without complaint. But to have been singled out by the only improved Newtonian steam pump in England, this is hard, sir. This is not to be borne.
Your lady...
And for what? My lake is drained to a ditch for no purpose I can understand, unless it may be that Snipe and Curlew have deserted 3 counties so that they may be shot in our swamp. What you painted as a forest is a mean plantation. Your greenery is mud, your waterfall is wet mud, and your mount is an open-cast mine for the mud that was lacking in the dell. What is that cowshed?
The hermitage, my lady?
It is a cowshed.
Madam, it is. I assure you a very habitable cottage, properly founded and drained, 2 rooms and a closet, under a slate roof and a stone chimney.
And who is to live in it?
Why, the hermit?
Where is he?
Madam?
You surely do not supply a hermitage without a hermit.
Indeed, madam.
Come, Mr. Noakes, if I am promised a fountain, I expect it to come with water. What hermits do you have?
I have no hermits, my lady.
Not one. I am speechless.
I am sure a hermit can be found. One could advertise
Advertise.
in the newspapers.
But surely a hermit who takes a newspaper is not a hermit in one whom one could have complete confidence?
I do not know what to suggest, my lady.
Is there room for a piano?
A piano?
We are intruding here. This will not do, Mr. Hodge. Evidently nothing is being learned. Come along, sir.
Mr. Noakes, bad news from Paris.
Is it the Emperor Napoleon?
No. It concerns your heat engine. Improve it as you will, you can never get out of it what you put in. It repays 11 pence in the shilling at most. The penny is for this author's thoughts.
Thank you, my lady.
Do you understand her?
No.
Then this business is over. I was married at 17. Ce soir, il faut qu'on parle français, je demande, Thomasina, as a courtesy to the Count. Wear your green velvet, please. I'll send Briggs to do your hair. 16 and 11 months.
Lord Byron was with a lady.
Yes.
Huh.
Why does it mean Mr. Noakes' engine pays 11 pence in the shilling? Where does he say it?
Nowhere. I noticed it by the way. I cannot remember now.
Nor is he interested by determinism.
Oh! Yes. Newton's equations go forwards and backwards. They do not care which way. But the heat equation cares very much. It only goes one way. That is the reason Mr. Noakes' engine cannot give the power to drive Mr. Noakes' engine.
Everybody knows that.
Yes, Septimus. They know it about engines.
11:45. For your essay this week, explicate your diagram.
I cannot. I do not know the mathematics.
Without mathematics, then.
There. I have made a drawing of you and Plautus.
Huh. Excellent likeliness. Not so good of me.
Ah.
Sir,
My lord,
I gave you offense, sir, and I am sorry for it.
I took none, my lord, but you are kind to mention it.
I would like to ask you a question, Mr. Hodge.
Hmm.
You have an elder brother, I dare say, being a Septimus?
Yes, my lord. He lives in London. He's the editor of a newspaper, the Piccadilly Recreation. Was that your question?
No. Oh. It is you. I would like to keep it. There are things a fellow cannot ask his friends. Carnal things. My sister has told me. My sister believes such things as I cannot, I assure you, bring myself to repeat.
Must not repeat them then. The walk between here and dinner will suffice to put us straight if we stroll by the garden. It is an easy business, and then I must rely on you to correct your sister's state of ignorance.
Thank you, my lord, I will.
Oh, no. No. Bloody hell. Oh, bloody hell, no.
I'm sorry, Bernard.
Fucked by a dahlia. Do you think? Is it open and shut? Am I fucked? What does it really amount to? When all's said and done, am I fucked? What do you think, Valentine? Tell me the truth.
You're fucked.
Oh God, does it mean that?
Yes, Bernard, it does.
I'm not sure. Show me where it says. I want to see it. No. Read it. No, wait. Right.
October 1st, 1810. Today, under the direction of Mr. Noakes, a parterre was dug on the south lawn and will be a handsome show next year, a consolation for the picturesque catastrophe of the second and third distances. The dahlia, having propagated under glass with no ill effect from the sea voyage, is named by Captain Bryce Charity for his bride, though the honor properly belongs to the husband who exchanged beds with my dahlia and an English summer for the everlasting night in the Indies.
Well, it's so round houses, isn't it? Who's to say what it means?
It means that the Ezra Chater of the Sidley Park connection is the same Chater who described a dwarf dahlia in Martinique in 1810 and died there of a monkey bite.
Ezra was a botanist. He wasn't a botanist. He was a poet.
He was not much of either, but he was both.
It's not a disaster.
Of course it's a disaster. I was on the breakfast hour.
It doesn't mean Byron didn't fight a duel. It only means Chater wasn't killed in this.
Oh, pull yourself together. Do you think I'd have been on the breakfast hour if Byron had missed?
Calm down, Bernard. Valentine's right.
Do you think so? Do you mean the Piccadilly Reviews? Yes, 2 completely unknown Byron essays, and my discovery of the lines he added to the British English bards. That counts for something.
Very possible. Persuasive, even.
Oh, bugger persuasive. I've proved Byron is here. As far as I'm concerned, he wrote lines as sure as he shot a hare. If only I hadn't somehow made it all about killing Chater. Why didn't you stop me? It's bound to get out, you know. I mean, this gloss on my discovery. I mean, how long do you think it'll be before some botanical pedant blows a whistle on me?
The day after tomorrow. A letter in the Times.
You wouldn't.
It's a dirty job, but somebody's got it.
Darling, sorry, Hannah.
And after all, it is my discovery.
Hannah.
Bernard.
Hannah.
Oh, shut up. It'll be very short, very dry, absolutely gloat-free. Would you rather it were one of your friends?
Oh, God, no.
And then in your letter to the Times...
Mine?
Well, of course. Dignified congratulations to a colleague. In the language of scholars, I trust.
Oh, eat shit, you mean?
Think of it as a breakthrough in dahlia studies.
Why aren't you coming? Bernard, and you're not dressed? How long have you been back?
Why are you wearing those clothes?
Do be quick. We are all being photographed, except Hannah.
I'll come and watch.
Mummy says, have you got the theodolite?
What are you supposed to be, Chloe? Bo Peep?
Jane Austen.
Of course.
Oh, it's in the Hermitage. Sorry.
I thought it wasn't till this evening. What photograph?
The local paper, of course. They always come before we start. We want a good crowd of us. Gus looks gorgeous.
The newspaper? I'm ready.
Lady, what is it?
Shush. Yes,
For what, dear God?
not innocent. Tomorrow I will be 17.
Dear Christ.
You must show me. You are paid in advance.
Oh,
Plays for us. It is God-given. I cannot be 17 and not waltz.
but your mother.
While she swoons, we can dance. The house is all abed. I heard the broadwood. Oh, Septimus, teach me now.
Hush, I cannot now.
Did you can? And I am come barefoot, so mind my toes.
Not because it is not a waltz.
Not?
No, it is too slow for waltzing.
Oh. Then we will wait for him to play quickly.
My lady.
Mr. Hodge. Are you reading my essay? Why do you work here so late?
To save my candles.
You have my old primer.
It is mine again. You should not have written it.
It was
Joke. You'll make me mad as you promised. Sit over there. You'll have us in disgrace.
If Mama comes, I will tell her we only met to kiss, not to waltz.
Silence or bed.
Silence.
Oh,
Got it. It's heat.
are you tight, Val?
It's a diagram of heat exchange.
So, we are all doomed.
Yes.
Like a steam engine, you see? She didn't have the maths, not remotely. She saw what things meant, way ahead, like seeing a picture.
This is not science. This is storytelling.
Did a waltz now?
No. No.
Like a film.
What did she see?
That you can't run the film backwards. Heat was the first thing that didn't work that way. Not like Newton. A film of a pendulum or a ball falling through the air backwards. It looks the same.
The ball would be going the wrong way.
You'd have to know that. But with heat, friction, and a ball breaking a window,
Yes.
it won't work backwards.
Who thought it did?
She saw why. You can put back the bits of glass, but you can't collect up the heat of the smash. It's gone.
So the improved Newtonian universe must cease and grow cold. Dear me.
The heat goes into the mix.
Yes. We must hurry if we are going to dance.
And everything is mixing the same way all the time, irreversibly,
Oh, we have time, I think.
till there's no time left. That's what time means.
When we have found all the mysteries and lost all the meaning, we will be alone on an empty shore.
Then we will dance. Is this a waltz?
We'll serve.
Goody!
Don't mind me, I left my jacket.
Are you leaving?
Yes, I'm afraid so.
What's up, Bernard?
Nothing I can go into.
Should I go?
No, I'm going.
Septimus.
No! I'll kill her! I'll kill her!
Oh dear.
What the hell is it, Chloe?
Mommy!
Your mother caught us at the cottage.
snooped.
I don't think so. She was rescuing a theodolite.
I'll come with you, Bernard.
No, you won't.
Don't you want me to?
Of course not. What for? I'm sorry.
What are you saying sorry to him for?
Sorry to you two. Sorry, one and all. Sorry, Hannah. Sorry, Hermione. Oh, sorry, Byron. Sorry. 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 Now can I go?
Well,
What a bastard you are, Bernard.
and you, mind your own business. What do you know about anything?
Nothing.
It was worth it, though. Wasn't it?
It was wonderful.
Nothing.
Well, you shit. I drive you, but I'm a bit sloshed. Chloe! Chloe!
Scrape.
Oh. Bernard.
I look forward to the genius of the place. I hope you can find your hermit. I think out front is the safest.
Actually, I've got a good idea who he was, but I can't prove it.
Publish!
Am I waltzing?
Yes, my lady. Take your essay. I've given it an alpha in blind faith. Be careful with the flame.
I will wait for you to come.
I cannot.
You may.
I may not.
You must.
I will not.
Then I will not go. Once more, for my birthday.
Oh, you made me jump. Oh. Septimus holding Plautus. I was looking for that. Thank you. Oh, dear. I don't really.